Have you ever watched someone's heart shatter in real time? That moment when they realize they've been forgotten, abandoned, left behind. Maya Chen sat alone in that corner booth, hands trembling so badly her hot chocolate spilled across the worn wooden table. But what she didn't know, what she couldn't possibly know, was that her broken heart was about to become the foundation for something extraordinary. Before we dive into Maya's story, I'd love it if you could hit that subscribe button and stay with me until the very end. And please, comment below with the city you're watching from. I want to see just how far Maya's journey travels across the world. The afternoon light streaming through Willow Cafe's windows turned golden, catching the dust particles that danced around Maya like tiny witnesses to her humiliation. 6:45. She'd been waiting for an hour and 15 minutes. Her date, a man she'd met through a friend, someone who'd seemed genuinely interested, had simply never shown up. No text, no call, nothing. Maya dabbed at the chocolate spreading across the table, her sleeve riding up to reveal a delicate tattoo on her wrist, broken chains transforming into butterflies. She'd gotten it the day after her wedding that never happened, when she stood alone in a boutique dressing room, still wearing her white dress, reading a note that said, "You're too small for my world. You'll never be enough." "Sometimes, sweetheart," came a gentle voice. "The person who arrives late is the one we needed all along." Eleanor Ross, the cafe's silver-haired owner, set down a fresh cup of cocoa. Her weathered hand rested briefly on Maya's shoulder, and in that touch was decades of understanding. Eleanor had seen countless broken hearts pass through her doors, and she'd learned to recognize which ones were about to transform into something beautiful. "It's okay," Maya whispered, though her voice cracked on the second word. "This is what happens when girls like me try to be brave." She reached for her leather sketchbook, needing the comfort of her secret world. The pages revealed intricate designs, gingerbread houses with flying buttresses, cookie bridges with engineering calculations in the margins, pastry architecture that defied gravity. Each sketch was a reminder of the dream she'd abandoned, becoming an architect. Her ex-fiancé had convinced her she wasn't smart enough, talented enough, worthy enough. "You know," Eleanor said softly, "even the greatest cathedrals started as simple sketches in someone's hands." Before Maya could respond, the cafe door burst open with unexpected force. Two identical girls tumbled in, pink jackets askew, auburn braids bouncing, cheeks flushed from running. They couldn't have been older than 6, but their eyes held a determination that made every customer in the cafe stop mid-conversation. "Are you Miss Maya Chen?" the one with a unicorn clip asked, breathing hard. Maya's heart stuttered. "Yes." The entire cafe fell silent. Something extraordinary was unfolding, and everyone could feel it. The second girl stepped forward, hands clasped as if in prayer. When she spoke, her childlike voice carried a gravity that filled the room. "We're Sophie and Emma Cole. Our daddy is Daniel Cole." She took a breath that seemed too big for her small chest. "He's your date." Maya blinked, confused. "Your daddy? He told us not to tell anyone," Sophie whispered, leaning close. "But Daddy doesn't know we're here." Emma's eyes, startlingly wise for someone so young, locked with Maya's. "He's stuck, saving a building that's collapsing. But we didn't want you to think he forgot." She reached for Maya's hand, her tiny fingers surprisingly warm. "He would never forget someone like you on purpose." Eleanor's soft laugh broke the tension. "Well, Maya," she said, eyes gleaming with something that looked suspiciously like magic, "it seems the universe has decided you deserve a better story than being stood up. What would you do if two little matchmakers appeared, claiming to be sent by fate itself?" "Our daddy is a very important architect," Sophie explained, climbing onto the chair across from Maya. "He builds things that don't fall down. Except today," Emma added, settling beside her sister. "Today something is falling down and he has to fix it." Maya felt her shock melting into reluctant curiosity. There was something disarming about these twins, with their matter-of-fact explanations and fierce loyalty. "How did you even know where to find me?" The girls exchanged a look that suggested they'd perfected the art of gentle mischief. "We saw your picture on Daddy's phone," Sophie admitted. And Mrs. Henderson, his assistant, said Daddy was supposed to meet a lady named Maya at Willow Café at 6 o'clock. But he forgot, Emma continued, her face suddenly serious. Not because he wanted to. He forgets everything except work, since Mommy went to heaven. The words landed like stones in still water. Maya felt her throat tighten. Eleanor moved closer, setting down fresh hot chocolates for the twins. The cafe seemed to hold its breath. Your mommy went to heaven? Maya asked softly. Emma nodded, small hands wrapping around the warm mug. 2 years ago. She was driving home from work, and a truck couldn't stop in the rain. Sophie stared into her cocoa. Daddy was on the phone with her when it happened. Now he doesn't like phones very much. Something cracked open in Maya's chest. She knew what it felt like to lose someone you loved, even if her loss was different. She understood the weight of absence. We have her picture, Emma said, pulling out a worn photograph from her backpack. In the photo, a beautiful woman with the twins' auburn hair smiled widely, arms around 2 4-year-olds. Behind them stood a man tall, with kind eyes that crinkled at the corners. He looked like someone built to carry the weight of the world on his shoulders. That's our daddy, Sophie said. Daniel Cole. He builds things for everyone else, but he doesn't know how to fix what's broken inside us. Maya saw herself reflected in that statement. How many times had she baked perfect cakes for other people's celebrations while her own life crumbled? Miss Maya, Emma whispered, her voice dropping to a tone that somehow held ancient wisdom. You look like someone who knows how to fix broken things. The observation struck Maya with unexpected force. What makes you think that? Sophie pointed to the sketchbook. You draw things that hold other things together. Bridges and houses and hearts. And you have sad eyes too, Emma added. Like Daddy's. But you still make pretty things. Could the most perceptive eyes be the ones that haven't learned to look away from pain? We have a plan, Sophie announced suddenly, her face lighting up with determination. A very good plan, Emma confirmed, with a solemn nod. Within 20 minutes, Maya found herself standing outside Cole Construction's temporary office, a basket of still warm food in her hands, and 2 determined 6-year-olds flanking her like tiny generals. The construction site buzzed with activity despite the late hour. Floodlights illuminated a partially collapsed section of what appeared to be a historic building. Workers moved with controlled urgency. There's Daddy. Sophie pointed to a tall figure in a hard hat, deep in conversation with his foreman. Maya's breath caught. The man from the photograph looked different in person, more solid, more real, more beautiful in his exhaustion. Go, Emma urged, giving Maya a gentle push. As if sensing her presence, Daniel Cole turned. His eyes, gray and intelligent, found Maya across the chaos. Confusion flickered across his face, followed quickly by recognition, then horror. He strode toward her, pulling off his hard hat. Maya Chen? His voice was deeper than she'd imagined, rough with stress and surprise. Mr. Cole. Daniel, he corrected automatically, then seemed to remember. Oh God. Our date. He ran a hand through his dark hair, leaving it disheveled. I completely forgot. There's no excuse. The wall was compromised, and if we didn't stabilize it tonight, the entire structure could have. He stopped, realizing he was making excuses. I'm so sorry. Before Maya could respond, 2 small voices called out in unison. Surprise! Daniel's head whipped around. Sophie? Emma? His expression cycled through shock, confusion, and dawning realization. How did you? What are you? He looked at his assistant, standing nearby with a guilty expression. Mrs. Henderson? The older woman raised her hands. They can be very persuasive. We brought Miss Maya to you, Emma announced proudly. Because you forgot, but she needed to know you didn't forget, on purpose. Daniel's face flushed. He looked at Maya with something between mortification and hope. They found you? At the cafe? Maya nodded, unable to suppress a small smile. They're quite the negotiators. I am so sorry, Daniel said. Not just for missing our date, but for, he gestured helplessly at his daughters, for this ambush. Actually, Maya found herself saying. I think it might be the most thoughtful thing anyone's ever done for me. Something shifted in Daniel's expression. The embarrassment softened into wonder. You brought food, he noticed the basket. Your daughters informed me you haven't eaten, and that you get very grumpy when you're hungry. A laugh escaped him rusty, as if he hadn't used it in years. They're not wrong. What started as a humiliating evening was transforming into something entirely unexpected. For the next hour, Maya sat on a construction crate, watching Daniel work. The twins, exhausted from their adventure, dozed against her sides. She'd offered to leave, but Daniel had asked her to stay, and something in his voice made it impossible to refuse. She watched him move through the site with quiet authority, saw how his workers respected him, noticed the way he double-checked every calculation personally. This wasn't just a job to him. Every building was a promise he intended to keep. You're thinking something, Daniel said, appearing beside her with a bottle of water. Maya startled. Sorry? You have this look. He gestured vaguely at his face. Like you're analyzing the structure or something. I was actually thinking that you treat buildings the way I treat pastries, she admitted. Like they deserve your best, even when no one else will notice the details. Daniel sat down beside her, careful not to disturb his sleeping daughters. You notice. I used to want to be an architect, Maya heard herself confess. Before I was convinced I wasn't good enough. Who convinced you of that? Someone I was going to marry. Daniel was quiet for a moment. For what it's worth, anyone who told you that was an idiot. Something warm bloomed in Maya's chest. The girls really like you, Daniel said softly. They don't usually warm up to people this fast. They're amazing. They remind me that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is care about someone, even when it's scary. Daniel turned to look at her. Really look at her. You're not what I expected. Is that good or bad? It's terrifying, he admitted. And good. Very good. By the time the site was secured, and they'd called an Uber for Maya and the girls, it was nearly midnight. Daniel walked them to the car, twins sleeping against his shoulders. Thank you for coming, he said. And for staying. You didn't have to do that. Your daughters went to a lot of trouble to make sure I knew you weren't standing me up on purpose, Maya replied. The least I could do was follow through. Daniel shifted Sophie slightly, freeing one hand. He pulled out his phone. Can I call you? For a real date this time? One where I'm actually present from the beginning? Maya thought about her broken heart, her abandoned dreams, her fear of never being enough. Then she looked at this man who built things for a living and carried the weight of grief with quiet dignity, whose daughters had shown more courage in one evening than she'd felt in years. Yes, she said. You can call me. As the Uber pulled away, Maya watched Daniel stand on the curb, his daughters in his arms, watching her leave. And for the first time in 2 years, she let herself hope. But what Maya didn't know was that while she was falling asleep that night with a smile on her face, another woman was making plans. Daniel's ex-girlfriend, Victoria Brennan, had heard about the promising baker who'd shown up at the construction site. And Victoria didn't like anyone getting close to Daniel, not when she'd decided she wanted him back. The next morning, Maya arrived at Willow Café to find Victoria waiting for her. You must be Maya, Victoria said, her smile sharp as glass. She was stunning, tall, polished, wearing confidence like armor. I'm Victoria, Daniel's girlfriend. Maya felt the world tilt. Girlfriend? Well, ex-girlfriend, technically, but these things are complicated. Victoria leaned against the counter, inspecting her perfect nails. We're working things out. He probably didn't mention me last night? Maya's stomach dropped. No, he didn't. That's Daniel for you. He hates conflict. Victoria's eyes swept over Maya dismissively. Look, I'm sure you're nice, but Daniel and I have history. We're from the same world, the same social circles, the same background. We make sense together. I should probably get to work, Maya managed, her voice barely steady. Of course, Victoria straightened. Just thought you should know before you got too attached. Daniel's daughters are sweet, but they don't get to choose who their father dates. Adults make those decisions. After Victoria left, Eleanor found Maya in the kitchen, hands shaking as she tried to measure flour. "That woman's a viper," Eleanor said bluntly. "Whatever she told you, it's poison. She said she and Daniel are working things out." Eleanor snorted. "Daniel Cole hasn't looked at another woman since his wife died until you. Victoria Brennan is just realizing what she gave up. But the damage was done. When Daniel called that afternoon, Maya let it go to voicemail. And the next day, and the day after that. On the fourth day, Sophie and Emma appeared at the cafe again. "Why won't you talk to Daddy?" Sophie demanded, hands on her hips. "He keeps checking his phone," Emma added sadly. "Like he did after Mommy died." Maya's heart clenched. "It's complicated, sweethearts." "Are you mad at us?" Sophie's voice trembled. "Because we brought you to him?" "No." Maya knelt down, pulling both girls close. "Never. You were so brave and so kind. But sometimes, grown-ups have situations that are hard to explain." "Victoria came to see you, didn't she?" Emma asked with unsettling perception. Maya froze. "How did you—" "She called Daddy too. Told him she wanted another chance." Sophie's face scrunched with disgust. "But Daddy said no. He said he was trying to move forward, not backward. And he said," Emma continued, her little face serious, "that he'd met someone who made him remember what hope felt like." Maya felt tears prick her eyes. "Will you please talk to him?" Sophie pleaded. "We don't want you to disappear. We've already lost one person we loved." How could Maya say no to that? That evening, she finally called Daniel back. "Maya." His voice was rough with relief. "I was starting to think I'd completely messed this up." "Victoria came to see me," Maya said directly. "She said you two were working things out." Daniel's curse was quiet but heartfelt. "We are absolutely not working things out. Victoria dumped me 6 months after Helen died because I wasn't moving on fast enough. She's only back because—" He paused. "Because she heard I'd finally gone on a date. With someone who matters." "Someone who matters?" "You matter, Maya. You showed up at a construction site with dinner because my daughters asked you to. You stayed for hours. You saw me at my most stressed, and you didn't run. That matters." Maya closed her eyes. "I'm scared, Daniel." "Of what?" "Of not being enough." "Again." "Then we're both scared," Daniel said softly. "Because I'm terrified of letting someone in and losing them. But my daughters reminded me that being scared isn't a good enough reason to not try." "Could it really be that simple?" "One real date," Maya said. "No construction emergencies. No ex-girlfriends. No twins as chaperones, though I adore them. One real date." Daniel agreed. "Just us." 2 days later, Daniel picked Maya up at 7 sharp, holding flowers and wearing a smile that transformed his entire face. They went to a small Italian restaurant, sat in a corner booth, and talked for 4 hours. Daniel told her about Helen, how they'd met in college, how she'd believed in him before he believed in himself, how losing her had felt like losing gravity. Maya told him about her almost wedding, about how she'd let someone convince her she was too ordinary, too small, not enough. "He was wrong," Daniel said fiercely. "You're not too small. You're exactly who you are. And that's exactly right." At the end of the night, standing outside Maya's apartment, Daniel cupped her face gently. "Thank you for giving me another chance. Thank you for sending your daughters to find me." He laughed. "I didn't send them. They're tiny masterminds." "Then thank you for raising tiny masterminds who believe in second chances." When Daniel kissed her, soft and sweet, Maya felt something shift inside her. The broken pieces weren't gone, they'd always be part of her story. But they didn't have to define the ending. 3 months later, the Riverside Library held its grand opening. Daniel had insisted Maya be there, even though she wasn't sure why. When Daniel took the microphone to speak, he found her face in the crowd immediately. 2 years ago, I lost my wife," he said, his voice carrying across the gathering. "After she died, I focused on building things that couldn't feel pain. Structures, walls, foundations. I thought that was strength." His gaze held Maya's. "I was wrong. The strongest foundations are built of courage and kindness. There's someone here today who taught me that. Someone who showed me that even when foundations crack, they can be repaired, sometimes made even stronger than before. He smiled. Maya Chen, would you come up here, please? Maya's heart pounded as she made her way to the front. Daniel pulled something from his pocket, half of a cookie. One of her special heart-shaped cookies, broken cleanly down the middle. I broke this by accident, he said, but I kept it because it reminded me that healing isn't about forgetting who broke you. It's about building again, piece by piece, with someone who understands your cracks. He took her hand. This library was designed with a café, and I'm honored to announce that Willow Cafe, under the direction of Eleanor Ross and Maya Chen, will be operating that space. Applause erupted, but Maya barely heard it. She was looking at Daniel, at the hope and love in his eyes, at Sophie and Emma, bouncing excitedly beside the stage. But more than that, Daniel continued. I wanted to ask you something in front of all these people, so you know I mean it. So you know you're not too small or not enough. You're everything. He got down on one knee. Maya's hands flew to her mouth. Maya Chen, will you marry me? Will you build a life with me and my daughters? Will you let us prove to you every single day that you are more than enough, you are everything we've been looking for? Through tears, Maya looked at the man kneeling before her, at the two little girls who'd been brave enough to rescue her broken heart, at Eleanor beaming from the front row. Yes, she whispered. Then louder. Yes, as Daniel stood and pulled her close, as Sophie and Emma rushed to hug them both, as the crowd cheered, Maya realized something profound. Sometimes, broken hearts are just foundations waiting for the right person to build on. Sometimes the ending you thought you'd lost was just the beginning of the story you were always meant to live. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is believe that you deserve to be loved. Cracks, scars, and all. From the back of the crowd, Victoria Brennan slipped away quietly, her own heart finally understanding what she'd lost by never learning to value the right things. But Maya didn't notice. She was too busy being held by the man who'd convinced her she was enough, surrounded by the little girls who'd been brave enough to believe in love when the adults had forgotten how. Later that night, as they celebrated with cake at Willow Cafe, Eleanor raised her teacup in a toast. To broken cookies, she said with a knowing smile, and the beautiful things we build from the pieces. Maya looked around at her new family, Daniel, whose sad eyes now held warmth and laughter. Sophie and Emma, who'd become the daughters of her heart. Eleanor, who'd believed in second chances. To broken cookies, she echoed. And to the courage to believe, we deserve to be whole. Because in the end, we all have cracks. We all have pieces that didn't fit in someone else's puzzle. But that doesn't mean we're broken. It just means we're still being shaped into our truest form. And sometimes, the most beautiful architecture rises from foundations we thought were beyond repair.